Welcome back to Sauce and Shram on Stadium. WatchStadium.com. Shrammy, how about? Sorry, Mizzou made. Tyron Woodley
had a
goes
good
down.
run.
He did. He had a heck of a run. Kamaru Usman absolutely dominated that fight from pillar to post on that one. UFC 235, as you know, I've talked about it. It was a great show on Saturday night. Helping us break it all down right now, Jordan Adams. He is the host of Brawl Crawl, rather. I like that better than I like bar crawls too, but brawl crawls are fun. Jordan, let's talk about what we saw there. And I'm sitting here with a Mizzou guy. We had two Mizzou guys on the card here, in Ben Askren and certainly T Wood there, Tyron Woodley. Let's go to that big surprise. Not so much to me that Usman won, in the fact, though, that Usman dominated this fight from beginning to end, where Tyron Woodley, I never felt like when I was watching it, had any chance to win this fight. Jordan, are you as surprised as I am that the champ, one of the best champs ever at 170, was completely outclassed in this fight?
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look at the guys that he's knocked off throughout his career, it is absolutely shocking how flat he was. And it's going to happen, and frankly, it's remarkable that it didn't happen sooner. As you said, what an amazing run. The fact that this is the first time we've seen him flat in this kind of time is just amazing in and of itself. But yeah, man, he just couldn't get anything going. To be dominated, like you said, no surprise Usman, is a monster. No surprise he did what he did. But a big surprise that a champ of the caliber of T Wood couldn't get anything going at all. That was remarkable.
So, Jordan, what do you think the future holds for T. Wood? We know he has a somewhat contentious relationship with UFC boss Dana White. So is he going to get back on track to try and retain that belt, or is his future a little murky in the UFC?
Really, really good question, Tyler. He said he was going to get back on track. He said he's going to get right back in. He's going to grab the belt back. But you look at these other promotions that are up and coming, and they're stroking big checks now. T. Wood is obviously a huge name. Maybe he makes a few phone calls. Maybe he looks around a little bit. Maybe he tests the water to see what's out there. As you said, him and DFW have never really seen eye to eye. If there was going to be a time he'd be looking around, it would probably be right around now.
Yeah, it'd be interesting, too, because obviously he's got TMZ, he's kind of Hollywood these days. Maybe it's like what happened to Rocky in Rocky 3. He got civilized, and that's what it seems like is happening with T. Wood. Jordan, let's talk about what may be next now for the champ. And we know that Kamaru Usman now has got that belt at 170. Does Colby Covington get back into the fray here? A unification bout, if you will? I know he was the interim champ. He doesn't have that anymore. What do you see next for the new champ?
I think the narrative demands Colby. For a lot of reasons. Colby walks around with the red hat on. He walks around disparaging third world countries. He disparages second world countries. Kamaru Usman pretty much loathes Colby with every ounce of energy he has in his body. Can you imagine the PR narrative for this fight? This is a big money ticket. I cannot see Dana resisting this, and there's no reason to resist it. I think Colby's the legitimate choice. When you look at the rest of the guys in the division, Colby is the choice because of the different records and who won to who and who lost to who. It's got to be Colby anyway. Kamaru wants it. Colby wants it. You saw Colby was having fun at Usman's open workout. I don't know if you saw that with the big bullhorn.
Yeah.
It demands it. The fight's going to happen.
On merit too. We've had Colby right here in this set a couple times, and we get it. It's a shtick and it's a thing. But he's gotten underneath the skin of Usman, that's for sure. So I'm with you. I think that's the fight that has to happen.
There's a lot of people who don't like Colby Covington and would like to hop in the octagon with him and give him a piece of their mind. You mentioned how Dana White just may not be able to ignore the possibilities of that fight. We know he's never been able to deny his affection for John Bones Jones. We know he's got many opportunities to get back in the UFC because of the attraction that he is for the fans, and maybe the best of all time, no matter what weight class. He got another victory at UFC 235. So can we now see John Jones getting back on track to his rightful place, so to speak, as the best in the business?
Here's the tension I see coming up with Jones. How many times can you clear out a division? And let me back up a little bit. Smith, I thought, made a great showing of himself, even though he was totally pissed at himself. I thought to survive 5 rounds with John Bones Jones is a huge accomplishment in and of itself. And I also tip my hat to Smith that he didn't take the win on the DQ. A lot of other fighters would have taken the win and taken the money, and he refused to do that. And John, rightfully saluted him at the end of that, as well as the fans. But I think the tension coming up, guys, is I think Jones, when the dust settles, is going to want the big money fight. I think he's going to want Brock.
Yeah.
And I think that Dana, DC is Dana's boy. As much as Dana loves Bones Jones, DC is the company man. Mm-hmm. And I think that Dana's going to want to give the big money fight to DC. So I think there's going to be some tension coming around the corner. There's really nothing left for Bones. There's a couple of good guys, Thiago, but he's got to go to heavy for the big money fights, I think.
I'm with you. Thiago would be a great fight at 205, but you're right. He just cleaned out the 205 division again. And we've talked about it, Tyler, where you've already beaten Daniel Cormier twice. I know one of them was a no contest because of what happened afterward, but you've cleaned him out twice at 205. If you want the big money fight, and John says he wants to stay at 205, it doesn't make any sense to stay there. He needs to go to heavyweight. That's where all the money fights are. And look, if Daniel Cormier is still here, and he said he was going to retire this year because he's 40 years old and he's stepping away from the family. He hadn't done that yet. He told me, Jordan, his whole career wouldn't be complete unless he beat John Jones. Don't we have to see the trilogy fight?
Yeah, it has to happen for so many reasons that you just outlined, Dave, and for so many other reasons as well. It does have to happen, and I see it happening when there's that much money at stake, when DC is haunted. Make no mistake.
Yes.
He's haunted by Jones, just haunted in a cellular way, in an emotional way, a spiritual way, a physical way. Every way you could be haunted, he's haunted by Jones. That fight does happen. But I see Jones asserting himself going forward. He said he'll take on anyone who tries to come, at light heavyweight, and he's trying to get along with Dana. But I do see, and Dana's bent over backwards, as you said, for Jones.
Oh boy.
I see the tension coming up with Brock. That's going to be, you can see, it's so funny to watch Dana pitching Thiago. It's an exciting fight. It's an exciting fight.
Sure.
It's an exciting. He's pitching. He's throwing that hard ball, man. He's trying to put it right over the plate. And it just it doesn't excite me. Yeah, it's a good fight, but what fight gets you standing on the couch throwing popcorn at the screen? Brock and Bones Jones. That's
absolutely.
The fight.
Look, I do have to bring up your other Mizzou guy.
Yeah, I wanted to mention that my Mizzou guys were 1-1. T. Wood lost the belt.
Could have been 0-2.
As we discussed, but Ben Askren, this was his debut in the UFC,
yes, it was.
And he had a controversial victory, according to Dave Ross. Do you agree
very
with that,
controversial.
Dave, you thought it was controversial?
Well, I mean, just in the fact that you could have made the case that Herb Dean could have stopped it early when Robbie Lawler had him down, really showed no defense for a second. He's taking the side head punches from Ruthless One. I actually thought it was good to not stop it there, and then I thought it was an early stoppage on the back end. And obviously, as we saw Robbie Lawler say after the fight, look, he just couldn't see that I was fine. And you saw by his reaction immediately after the stoppage, he was okay. I understand where Herb Dean was coming from, but that fight should have continued. So I wouldn't have stopped it the first time, and I wouldn't have stopped it the second time. All that being said, hey, your boy, many people, when they're in that compromising position that Robbie Lawler had him in, taking huge punches from a former legit champion at 170, they would have kowtowed and looked for a way out of this fight. Kudos to Ben Askren for getting back in there and turning this thing around. But Jordan, what is next for him? Because when your first fight in the UFC is against a legend and a former champ like Robbie Lawler, you are on the fast track at 170 pounds to get a title shot, are you not?
Yeah, you're in the fast track. And in addition, Dana and Askren have that tension in between them. That would be a great way for Dana to put a little balm over all of the problems they've had over the years. You already saw it in the post-fight. You saw, Dana trying to pitch Robbie again, because Robbie is another favorite of Dana, trying to pitch him again. And to back up, as we're watching the footage of, Herb Dean is elite. We all know he's an elite referee. And he saw the arm go limp, and his first mandate is protect the fighter. That's situation number one. Protect the fighter. The arm goes limp. A lot of times fighters don't even know they're out. They come back to consciousness, and they didn't even know they were out That could have happened with Robbie, but Dana and Robbie have a point. Robbie has done this before.
Yes.
Robbie can wait out pressure like nobody can. And the dude is so hard to put out. So you do have to factor that in, and the elite referees normally will factor that in. He knows Robbie Lawler, and maybe he gives him the benefit of the doubt. So that call could go either way. I don't think it's a controversial call, though. I think it's Herb Dean protecting the fighters. Mm-hmm. That's never controversial in my mind. It's controversial if he lets the guy get hurt. That to me is when it's controversial. So we were talking about tension earlier on. Here's some more tension. Ben wants nothing to do with the rematch with Robbie. He didn't even want the fight in the first place. Mm-hmm. He didn't like it. He likes Robbie. He said, there's so many guys I hate in the weight division. Why are you giving me someone I like? Well, so he didn't want the fight in the first place.
Shouldn't the real fight that should be made here, right, which will never happen, is Askren against T-Wood. I mean, that really would be the fight. And I know that they're boys and they're both Mizzou. But Jordan, wouldn't that realistically now, after what happened to Woodley and Askren winning in some questionable fashion, wouldn't that actually make the most sense?
Yeah, it would make a lot of sense. And so now what'll be really interesting to see, you look at T. Wood's credentials, you look at all he's done in the sport, you look at that elite level. In the past, when someone's at that level, they almost get an automatic rematch for the title. So do you do that for T. Wood? Mm-hmm. But here's the other aspect. That was a convincing win by Usman.
Right.
There was nothing controversial about it. It was not close. It was clearly a win by the Nigerian Nightmare. So it's not controversial. So in reality, T. Wood's got to get back in line, just like anybody else. Even with those credentials, one of the best, if not the best ever, got to get back in line.
Amazing.
That's the brutality of the sport of MMA.
And that's why I love it so much. Jordan Adams, pleasure having you here on Sauce and Shrimp. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. And you're welcome back on with us anytime, my friend.
Guys, I'm a big fan of the show. You guys are killing it up there. Thanks for everything you do. I watch you all the time.